Welcome, my brothers, to another episode of TGO Men's Ministries. Guys, I have one question for you today. Who are your heroes? Fellas, today I am wearing my Marvel t-shirt that my kids just got me for my birthday this past week. I think one of the fascinating things about the Marvel comic book series is that superheroes have not changed in a half a century. The same Marvel comic book heroes and DC comic heroes of the 50s are still what we're seeing Hollywood movies made about today. And I think personally that's largely because teenage boys never change. If I may paraphrase a bit, the definition of a hero is someone that we look up to because of outstanding courage or outstanding achievement. We all know that the superheroes of the comics are incredibly brave, and generally they always do the right thing, and rarely ever do they lose. As we start to get a little older, we look up to real life men rather than fictional characters in a storybook. We start to look up to war heroes and men of all walks of life that just display incredible bravery, or sports heroes and men that have just made a name for themselves due to incredible achievement. And we've all got our favorite athletes that we look up to. Men like Barry Sanders, one of the greatest running backs of all time. Maybe the greatest running back of all time, honestly, at least from my perspective. But brothers, my question for you today is, who is really worthy of our admiration? Are there men that are truly worthy of our admiration? Many of us look up to the men in our lives, the men that raised us, the men that taught us integrity and respect, the men that taught us a work ethic, like my father and my grandfathers. Many of us look up to incredible men of God that had an influence on our life. Men like Billy Graham. Or in my life, the pastor of my church when I grew up, who had probably the greatest spiritual impact on my life of anybody. I had an uncle who was a missionary to Peru, a man that I have a great deal of admiration and respect for his dedication to God's kingdom building work and his courage to leave the United States as a missionary out of the country. Well, if that ain't the smallest bass I've caught all year, I don't know what is. Now, catching fish that size is not worthy of praise. I had another uncle who was a pretty rough character in his early adulthood, but gave his life to the Lord and committed his life to the ministry, and then became a dedicated pastor. Getting a little bigger. How about our favorite anglers? Any of you guys that know me know that I am a bass fishing tournament junkie. I've been fascinated with bass fishing since the 80s, watching Ray Scott and Bob Cobb in the Bassmasters TV show. back in the mid-'80s. And there are certainly anglers that I look up to for their ability to catch fish. Guys like KVD that just have an unbelievable record that will probably never be beat for catching gigantic fish. A guy has just proved himself over and over and over again to be the GOAT. But are anglers really worthy of our admiration? Sooner or later, don't men just let us down? Before you go thinking too highly of your favorite tournament angler, you might want to go back and watch the last 3 Bassmaster Elite Series events. You see, this year, due to COVID, about half of the season got postponed from the regularly scheduled tournaments that has them this year fishing 4 events in the fall. They're fishing Chickamauga right now. Today's day 3. And they just finished up fishing Guntersville and Santee Cooper. Now these guys are not weighing in the 20 and 30 pound bags a day that we're used to seeing these guys weigh in. These guys are weighing in 10, 12, 14 pounds a day just to stay at the top of the leaderboard. We've got guys that aren't catching limits right now. So I challenge you guys. I challenge you guys to give it some thought. What men are worthy of our admiration? What men are actually worthy to be called heroes? Obviously, the Lord Jesus Christ is the one man who's ever lived on this planet who's actually worthy of our praise and worthy to model our lives around. I would argue that we could take the Apostle Paul at his word when he tells us that we would do well to model our lives after his. Men, from my devotional reading last week, I read from 2 Timothy 4:5. But you, be sober in all things, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, and fulfill your ministry. We all know that that was advice that Paul was giving to Timothy. But man, aren't we all called to be, to some degree, aren't we all called to be evangelists? We're all called to be kingdom builders. And we should all be taking the gospel to those around us. Men, let's model our lives after the real spiritual heroes, men like Paul, men like Timothy. Let's put God first in our life and let's be kingdom builders. Friends, thanks for watching another quick message from TJO Men's Ministries. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Do me a favor and share this video on your social media platforms. Share the Team Jesus Outdoors videos too, to grow our audience. And men, don't forget, if you feel led by the Lord, you can go to our homepage, you can go to our website, teamjesusoutdoors.com. In the upper right hand corner of the page, you'll find a link to our Patreon account. And if you feel so led, we would love for you to be sponsors. We would love for you to be partners with the ministry by supporting us on our Patreon account. Man, God bless, tight lines. We'll see you out there in the water.